I wore the Giants hat on purpose, so I look like a, well, I'm a baseball fan
We're at the Summer of Love Festival Bay Area, and we just had a run-in with a pro-choice woman who was very vocal about her position, and of course Ron Paul's pro-life. And I wanted to get the opinions of two women here on the pro-life issue and how Paul has treated it. So I don't know, what are your reactions to that?
I'm pro-choice myself, and I saw one interview of Ron Paul who was discussing how complex the issue is, and he just basically stated that the more complex the issue is, the more you give it to the people. So he says he doesn't want to touch it, just give it to the states. So that works for me.
Like the democratic process, you fight for it in your state, and yeah.
And if your state's not going with your belief, you can move to another state, or more importantly, you can work within your state to get your voice out there.
Because it is something of a sticky issue. I mean, if you look at any bioethics text, you know, where does life begin? You know, and you have to treat acts of violence at the local level. So, you know,
probably one of the most complex issues, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Beth?
Well, Ron Paul has also distinguished between early abortion and late-term abortions, and a lot of people don't distinguish, you know, between when the abortion is taking place. Also, a lot of people don't distinguish between surgical abortions, like at Planned Parenthood or something, and say maybe like a natural herbal abortion that's like the day after, or really, really early on in pregnancy. And even Ron Paul himself did say that, even as a medical doctor, that he said it's very difficult to distinguish at what point, like you were saying, you know, life, quote unquote, begins. And so I know that he's much more clear and passionate about, for instance, late-term abortions, and I think he's a little bit more probably open-minded in terms of very, very maybe early abortion. Not that he would even support that necessarily, but he's just saying the earlier it goes, the harder it is to legislate. Yeah. I know, and as a woman, I mean, I would definitely know, you know, what he's talking about, that is true. I mean, there does come a point in pregnancy where you're clearly pregnant, you know, your tummy's bulging out, and, you know, and so, but really, really early on, Ron Paul does distinguish, again, as, you know, Sorry, I'm losing my words.
Well, he uses legal and medical arguments instead of just
Right.
religious arguments, you know.
Exactly.
Which is very interesting because
Well,
a lot of the other
uses-
candidates don't do that.
Right, you're right. He uses real intellectual arguments.
You know,
like
like if a
actual
woman's
arguments.
pregnant and you kill her,
Yeah.
then you also kill the
Yeah.
fetus, and it's like a double homicide.
Right.
And that he's spoken on that. And
I think his personal view is that he's very pro-life
Yes.
and that he wouldn't like to see any abortions.
Yeah.
But I don't think he wants to be the kind of president that's going to make all of us do what he believes in. He's
like a national mandate.
yes,
right,
The
he's
only
more
thing that he could
trusting
do
of-
is get rid of the federal funding, right, as the president. I mean, that's the only thing that he
Exactly.
could really do.
I think that's all he really wants to do because the woman that we encountered said that Ron Paul is for forced birth, and I said I don't think that Ron Paul is for anything to be forced.
Yeah.
That's why he's a libertarian.
And you know, abortion is the use of force on a viable life. I mean, we might not like to think about
Right.
it that way, and that's very controversial, but it's there nonetheless.
That's
you
another
know?
good point.
And I'm sure a lot of these people are for, like, you know, animal rights and, you know, vegans and all those
Right.
things. So it's kind of contradictory to me
Exactly.
that they would run off and say, but abortion is fine when you're taking life, you know, in the same way.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, as a doctor, you know, it's another matter because I mean he's delivered 4,000 babies.
Exactly.
You know, he's there. He has to take care of the fetus. He has to take care of the life. So he's had a very personal and intimate relationship with that. So
Yeah.
okay. Well, thank you very much, ladies.